Union Home Minister Amit Shah says पाताल से ढूंढ कर निकालेंगे. But the bigger question is right now, how many of them are there hiding in the netherworld? कितने ऐसे छिपे हैं पाताल में who are plotting to bleed us, plotting to kill us? How big is this module? I want to bring in India Today's Sandeep Unnithan for more on this. Also joining me is Ambassador Veena Sikri, former High Commissioner to Bangladesh. Remember, there's a threat that emerges from that border. Professor Brahma Chellaney, one of India's best-known strategic voices, joins us on the show. General Vinod Bhatia is former Director General of Military Operations, with me on this story. In a while from now, we'll also talk about what's happening in Bangladesh. But for the moment, Sandeep, कितने छिपे हैं पाताल में? Arrests virtually every other day and a new layer being added. Now there were also plans of a drone strike. It's almost like a Hamas kind of an attack that took place on Israel on the 7th of October.
Well, absolutely, Gaurav. And that seizure on the 10th of November cannot be understated. I mean, the security forces have busted what is one of the largest such conspiracies to inflict mass murder on India. It is a terror plot that we've not seen the contours of at least since 26/11, because after 26/11, Gaurav, as you know, all the attacks were all one-off. They were single incidents. Nothing of this magnitude has ever been faced by the Indian security apparatus for more than a decade, almost close to 2 decades, in fact, after 26/11. This is November 2025, 17 years after 26/11. We have not seen a terror plot of this magnitude. What is being uncovered here on a daily basis over the last 7 days is absolutely horrifying, whether it is the manufacturing of VBIEDs, vehicle-borne improvised explosive devices, suicide bombers, and now the new elements that have been added on, which is drones to inflict terror on India's cities. The details of this are absolutely shocking, but it is only to be expected, Gaurav, given the kind of speeches that we've been seeing in Pakistan over the last couple of months, especially before Operation Sindoor. Field Marshal Asim Munir's speeches only point to the path that he seems to be following General Pervez Musharraf's footsteps.
Asim Munir may be the trigger. Asim Munir may be the trigger, Ambassador Sikri. The plan was in the works from much earlier. It's not as if Asim Munir made the speech and these chaps became radicalized. These guys have been living amongst us for much longer, plotting to bleed us, and that may have just been a trigger point. And the threat is not just from the Pakistani side, now also from the Bangladeshi side, with those radical Islamists going there to radicalize the society even more, and then perhaps push in from there.
No, absolutely. I think there's no doubt that this was an ISIL-led plot, and now there are linkages to Turkey which are coming up very clearly, showing that they are part and parcel of Pakistan's plans to radicalize Bangladesh as well, and through that come into India. Asim Munir has spoken about a strike from the east, but we also know there has been a lot of talk in the last few days that maybe 3,000 kilograms of these explosives have been unearthed, but there could be an equal amount still in hiding, and which is coming in from the eastern border, from Bangladesh in smaller quantities, and then being kept in various places. We also know that the leaders of Jaish-e-Mohammed and Lashkar-e-Taiba are openly saying that they're sending their teams to Bangladesh, and they're working with Bangladesh for the radicalization of that society and also for walking into India from there. So I think the events in Bangladesh are certainly pointing in every which way that Pakistan is trying to embed themselves into Bangladesh society, in the army, in the on the question of radicalization, on the question of doing projects in places like Lal Munir Haat, and they're absolutely clear that they want a situation that existed prior to 1971. This is what is
very, very worrisome. And what makes it even more worrisome, Professor Chellaney? So you have radical Islamist terrorists from Pakistan, radical Islamist terrorists from Bangladesh, and the enemy within, highly educated doctors, engineers, drone operators, and others living amongst us with assistance from outside or without. What were our intelligence agencies doing? How were they acquiring 2,900 kilograms of ammonium nitrate? But these guys were operating under the radar amongst us, sir. How worrisome is that for you?
Gaurav, you underscore the grim security realities that India confronts. In fact, the scale of what these people were planning to do is chilling, not only in terms of the series of coordinated blasts that they were intending to conduct, but also the sophistication of the techniques they were going to employ, including using air means to carry out terror attacks. And I think all this points to one basic fact that India has long been a beacon of stability and economic progress in a region increasingly engulfed in turmoil. Obviously, these people behind this scheme wanted to undermine India's image as a stable, prospering nation. But on whose behalf were they seeking to do this? Undermine
Yes.
India's image. Obviously, there was a bigger plot, a bigger plan. And it's very necessary not just to identify all the individuals of this terror unit, but also those who sponsored them. It's very, very important. In addition, I think there are three things that stand out about our internal security. One is that the need, first and foremost, to dismantle the entire ecosystem of terrorism, including the
Yes.
facilitators, recruiters, and ideologues. And this demands three things. One, stringent implementation of laws like the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, UPA.
Yes.
Also, we need to track financial and communication linkages. This means intensifying monitoring of digital communication platforms and financial transactions, including Hawala networks,
Yes.
because without funding, this kind of a terror unit cannot function effectively. And also, it's necessary to retrain our agencies, including NIA and state level anti terrorism squads, the ATS, because they need specialized training to identify and infiltrate networks operating under a professional disguise.
Oh,
These guys were,
absolutely.
yeah, these guys were operating freely in the NCR because they were using their professional credentials as doctors and other professionals. So we need to really refocus some of our counterterrorism strategies.
Perhaps use a lot more of artificial intelligence, bringing a lot more operatives. It may cost money, but it's still cheaper when it comes to saving lives at any cost. And General Bhatia, look at the level of sophistication from a VBIED, of course, a vehicle-borne improvised explosive device, India has dealt with for decades. But drones being used not just to smuggle in weapons from across the Punjab border, but in this case, to launch strikes. That was being planned. And third, the shoe bomber. That is something that was also being planned. So that naturally, these are highly educated doctors with very devious minds. So how do you infiltrate into an organization like this? Because from within the community, it's very clear, not many people came out to volunteer information about these people.
Yes, Gaurav, you're absolutely right. We have to not only counter terrorism, present relevant, but future ready also. And the terrorists have more chance of success in a technology-enabled environment where the white-collar terrorists are there now. They're well-educated, they're well-qualified, they know technology, they know how to exploit technology, and they're fully radicalized. And they have the support of Pakistan and they have the support of Bangladesh. And we have to look at Pakistan-Bangladesh axis for terrorism. And that is where counter-terrorism forces, intelligence services have done a great job. Let me tell you that despite November 10th, I think we have avoided major serial blasts all over the country, which could have destabilized a lot of things and given a boost to terrorism in India, which has not happened now. And the way that intelligence has gone around and got hold of the terrorists who are white collar terrorists spread all over the
Yes.
country, almost, especially Delhi, Jammu and Kashmir, Haryana and other places, Lucknow. So we got to understand that we have to be future ready and we got to exploit technology for that. We got to be one step ahead of the terrorists. And that is where I think we are doing a reasonably good job. Let's not, crucify our intelligence services. I see a lot of people talking about it, that we have failed in intelligence. I don't think we have failed. India's counter-terrorism strategy and tactics have succeeded mostly in every place, including G&K. If you look at the figures, despite the
Yes.
10-11, I think we
Sure.
have limited terrorism in Jammu and Kashmir, especially after the 5th August 2019. The figures show for themselves. I don't have to give the
What I'm
figures.
also very worried about, Sandeep, and I want you to weigh in on this before I move to our other story, which is Bangladesh. Sandeep, what is very worrisome, the Batla House encounter was an operation to destroy the Indian Mujahideen module that was operating in Delhi, but had carried out a series of terror attacks, places terror attacks, Sarojini Nagar blast, Connaught Place blast, Karol Bagh blast. And the moment that Batla House encounter took place, in which we lost brave Inspector Mohan Chand Sharma, I had covered that case. There were too many people who said, oh my God, you've killed innocent people. Oh my God, you've killed innocent people. But after that, there was no terror attack because that module had been busted. This time, fortunately, at least for now, that enabling ecosystem for terror is relatively muted. But that enabling ecosystem must also be pursued and probed. Out of what reason are they supporting terror in our country in the name of free speech or other activities, Sandeep?
Absolutely, Gaurav. And in the past, we made this distinction between the terrorist modules and the overground workers. And this overground workers concept, OGWs, as we used to call them, it was given some kind of a harmless connotation that, these are harmless above ground activists. But as we've seen in this case, Gaurav, in this thing, this story which began in late October with the pasting of posters supporting the Jaish-e-Mohammed, all of this began as overground activity, which led to the underground. So this is very clearly a very groundbreaking case in which overground activities led to the uncovering of a terror module. So therefore, we cannot anymore take the OGW networks lightly, because now, as we've seen, the deep state across the border has activated all its proxies, all its modules, all its overground workers, networks, to destabilize India. And this is the kind of threat that we are faced with, and we cannot take any of this lying down, Gaurav, because we really don't know how many of these modules are out there, how many of these other OGW networks.
And those who try to give it enabling cover fire, Professor Chellaney, last 30 seconds on this part of the show before I switch over to Bangladesh, that those who say, do not target a particular religion. Nobody is targeting a particular religion. Don't target people only of a particular religion. Nobody is either targeting people of a particular religion or region. Is this, in your appreciation, sir, a systematic, spearheaded, systematic attack to target only the perpetrators of terror with evidence that is being put through scrutiny in a court of law? So those who are already crying foul perhaps need to show a little patience, or is there merit that this is targeting people of a particular region and religion, sir?
Gaurav, what has happened will shake up anybody. Here, in this case, healers turned into agents of death. This has never happened anywhere in the world, that a group of doctors acting on their own, running and leading a terror module which was planning a series of major coordinated attacks. So given what has been uncovered, and given how deadly the Red Fort car blast was, it's become very important, in fact imperative, for the Home Ministry now to go after all the elements involved, not just in this terror network, but also their sympathizers, their sponsors, and their cross-border backers and funders. All have to be identified, and those that can be detained, they need to be detained. We have to be very focused in our counter-terrorism efforts.
It has to be transparent. It has to be evidence-based prosecution, and nobody should cry persecution if there isn't. That is something we'll be tracking very closely. And I want to talk about this in greater detail, but perhaps in the days and weeks ahead.